Now, the talent pool is very likely to be enlarged with IT professionals from the public sector as government cuts start to bite. How easy do you think it is going to be for these IT people in the public sector to transition to the private sector?
It's a really interesting question. I don't have a huge amount of experience of hiring people directly out of the public sector, but talent is talent. The best people will always find a place in another business. Skills are transferable, approach, kind of philosophy and hard work, an ability to work hard does work in any sector. So I don't see it as a huge hurdle. I think interestingly there are some lessons to be learnt from public sector, especially very large scale public sector bodies that are directly transferable to a large blue chip business. Not just the politicking around how you get things done, but also just the amount of buy-in and the amount of sensitivity you have to have around a whole organisation rather than just in the department that you're in.
So our sector is financial services, and one of the requisitions to get into financial services is domain expertise of products, debt products, be they sort of fixed income or stock lending and borrowing. That clearly doesn't exist in the public sector. But what I think people from those sectors could introduce is how to manage large quantities of data, how to think, in very political environments, and also how to deliver value quickly. So I think there's opportunities there, but it's going to be difficult.
I don't think it's that different. Clearly, the environment and the objectives are going to be different. But I think what you need to be is, like anything, is to be adaptable, to listen, and to understand what the agenda of the organisation is. So, an agenda of a government department or a local authority, has particular, very clear objectives. An airline or a bank or a small business has its own objectives. So I think you need to think, what are you there for, and adapt to that. So don't think, as with any job, that just doing the same job is going to hack it. You've got to adapt. But I think there's a lot of talent that's being built up in the public sector. So if they listen and adapt, it should be fine.
Transition from public sector into private sector at the moment, I think there's two factors. There's the individual and the mindset of the individual. Actually, many public sector employees probably work for private sector companies because of outsourcing agreements in place already. The bigger challenge, though, is I think the IT industry generally is going to contract as most of the technical jobs over the next 5 years or so move into supplier-side roles. Economies of scale mean that there's going to be less of them, and in-house IT departments, I think, across the board will be contracting in size as the technical skill needs actually start to wane.
Well, I actually have right now a number of contractors who have worked in the public sector and private sector working for me in my team at Gatwick. And so it's easy, but that comes with a caveat. It's about attitude. I recruit on that attitude, and particularly in where we have a relatively small internal long-term team, it's not necessarily about specific technology skills. It's about attitude, business relationships, business knowledge, and how do you build that? And that is 90% about attitude and capability.
Well, my experience with the public sector is that there's some really great people in there, and actually we've managed to get some of those people into our organisation. They provide some tremendous skills and qualities that we don't always find in the private sector. So a bit like, being able to have a blend of skills across the various teams, a blend of styles can really work for you. So I think there are some real opportunities for us probably going forward over the next 18 months.
Do you think that there is a danger of a culture shock for these people?
Well, I think certain organisations there'll be a culture shock, but in our organisation I think we can provide the right kind of framework of environment for them to work very successfully.
I think generally, talented people will find good roles. My exposure to the public sector is fairly limited. I did some consultancy work there many years ago. But from what I've seen and heard, in all honesty, I think a lot of IT people in the public sector will really struggle to transition. It's a different kind of environment, it's a different kind of way of working day to day, and I fear for those people, frankly.